They paid me $150,000 to break into a prison. Not to break out. Not to bust someone loose. Just get in, retrieve a small item from a specific solitary cell, and walk out like nothing happened. It sounded insane. And I said yes. The man who hired me went by Calloway. No first name, no handshake, no traceable background. He approached me through a dark contact I'd used in the past. Someone who only called when the money was real and the job was worse. We met in a parking garage in DC. No weapons. No surveillance. Just a printed manila folder with a photo of the prison, blueprints, a floor plan of the administrative wing, and one Polaroid. An old, stained metal object. Maybe a flask. Maybe a recorder. It was hard to tell. Calloway pointed to it. You have 12 minutes. You go in at 3:11 a.m. You walk out no later than 3:23. That's your window. What's in the cell? I asked. He didn't answer. He just slid the rest of the cash across the table. And I was stupid enough to take it. The prison was called Stanton Black. Not a federal pen. Not a state-run facility. Something in between. Privately contracted. Off-grid. The kind of place they send people when they're too dangerous to disappear but too useful to destroy. Stanton sat on the edge of nowhere, a concrete coffin buried in northern Montana, surrounded by 8 miles of open fields and weather no one wanted to live in. I studied the blueprints for weeks. Memorized every blind spot, every shift change, every security rotation logged in the last year. The plan was simple. Get in through the maintenance tunnels, breach the secondary access panel, loop one guard feed for 200 seconds, and make it to Cell 6A, solitary isolation. That's where the object was. The night I went in, it was 14 degrees outside. The tunnels were colder. My breath fogged up my glasses and froze in the seams of my gloves. I moved like I'd done 100 times before. And I had. Just never inside a prison. Never into one. I hit the panel. The feed looped. I opened the access hatch and slipped into the administrative hall with 5 minutes to spare. Everything was smooth. Until I got to the door. Cell 6A wasn't locked electronically. It was open. Wide open. No guards. No cameras. Just a chair. A desk. And the object, sitting on a worn metal tray in the center of the room, as if someone had just eaten dinner next to it. I stepped inside. Picked up the object. It was heavier than I expected. Not a flask. Not a recorder. It was a key. Thick. Solid. Old. Stamped with a number. 0. I turned it over in my hand. And the door slammed shut behind me. I didn't hear footsteps. I didn't hear a lock. I just heard a voice. From a speaker above the ceiling. Calm. Male. Cold. Welcome back. My blood went cold. I spun around, slammed against the door, felt for a handle. Nothing. No latch. No keypad. Just reinforced steel and that one voice still echoing from above. You should have read the fine print, Mr. Mercer. They knew my name. Not the alias I'd used on the forged documents. Not the burner ID I used to get past the tunnel checkpoint. My real name. I backed up, breathing hard, the key still clenched in my hand. There was no camera in the cell that I could see, but someone was watching. I spoke up. I did the job. I got the key. Now open the damn door. Silence. Then a soft click. Behind me. I turned slowly. The desk drawer, locked when I came in, was now open. Just an inch. Inside, a black envelope. I opened it. Inside was a photograph. Not of the prison. Not of the object. It was me. Me, from 5 years ago. Standing outside a research facility in Belarus, holding a duffel bag, staring at a car with a blown-out back window. The job I never talk about. The one that went bad. The one no one should have ever seen. And underneath the photo, a note. You left someone behind. Time to finish the job. The air in the cell changed. Subtle, but noticeable. Like pressure shifting. Like something in the walls had turned on. I looked down. The metal floor was vibrating, softly, like a hum you feel in your bones. Then I noticed something I hadn't seen when I walked in. On the far wall, flush against the concrete, was another door. Smaller. Older. Almost hidden. No handle. But one keyhole. I looked at the key in my hand. Stamped with a 0. The message was clear. They hadn't paid me to steal it. They paid me to use it. For the first time in years, I hesitated. Every instinct told me to find another way. Look for a vent. Find the seam in the wall. Rip something apart. Anything but putting that key into that door. But there was no countdown. No one yelling threats. Just silence. And that hum, getting stronger. So I stepped forward. Slid the key in. And turned it. The wall hissed. Steam or gas, I couldn't tell. The door clicked open, and beyond it darkness. Not blackout darkness. Designed darkness. Soundproof. Lightproof. Dead space. And something in there was breathing. There's a certain kind of darkness you don't walk into. You feel it first, the way your skin tightens, the way your lungs hesitate. It's not fear. It's recognition. Your body knows something doesn't belong. I stood at the threshold, key still in the lock, heart punching in my chest like it was trying to get out before I did. The breathing was slow, wet, rhythmic, and it wasn't mine. I stepped in. Just 2 feet. The door behind me slammed shut, hurling me into pitch black. I dropped to a crouch instantly. Listened. Nothing. Then, behind the black, a voice. Not from a speaker this time. Human. Do you remember me? Male. Deep. Familiar. But not someone I could place. My voice cracked when I answered. Who are you? A pause. Then, the man you left in Belarus. In the basement. While you ran. I hadn't told anyone about Belarus. Not the full story. Not about level B3. Not about the man they told me was already dead when I left him. He was strapped to a chair when I found him, beaten, hooked to monitors, pumped full of something I didn't recognize. The plan was to blow the facility after extraction. I was told no one inside was salvageable. But just before I triggered the detonation, I heard someone scream my name from the sublevel. And I left anyway. I didn't know you were alive, I said. No answer. Then something flickered, a faint blue light ahead, outlining a corridor. Not built like a prison, more like a testing lab. Stark white walls stained by time. Bolted down gurneys. Steel clamps. Dried fluids that shouldn't be read anymore. I walked toward the light, slow and careful. At the end of the corridor, a reinforced glass cell. Inside, A man. Pale. Wired into a dozen machines. Tubes down his throat. 4 lines. Arms strapped down, but head upright, watching me. It was him. The man from Belarus. And on the wall, scrawled in something I didn't want to identify, were 5 words. "You brought me back here." I heard the voice again, this time over the intercom. Same cold tone as before. "You didn't break in, Mercer. You walked into your own trial." I spun. "No one told me what this was." "You knew enough. You took the money. You turned the key." The lights turned red. The machines hissed. And somewhere in the distance, I heard the outer doors unlocking again. But I wasn't sure if that meant they were letting me out. Or letting something else in. The red lights pulsed like a heartbeat. That same rhythmic breathing filled the walls. Not just from the man in the cell. It was coming from the pipes, the vents, the floor. This place wasn't just holding him. It was alive with him. Whatever they'd done to him in Belarus, whatever experiments they continued here, they hadn't just kept him alive. They'd transformed him. The machines around him began to shut down. One by one. Not with a scream, with silence. His eyelids fluttered. Then opened wide. And in that moment, I saw something I'll never unsee. Not anger. Not pain. Clarity. The voice returned. Same speaker. Same calm. "Your contract is complete, Mr. Mercer. You've returned the asset." Returned? My hands went cold. This wasn't a prison. It was a loop. A place designed not to keep things out, or in, but to reset consequences. They didn't want me to steal anything. They wanted me to bring him back. Like a courier. A cleaner. A guilt-wrapped package. And I had delivered. Suddenly, the wall opposite the corridor began to open, a false panel sliding away, revealing a narrow stairwell. Fresh air. Emergency lights. An exit. I should have run. But I looked back. The man in the cell never took his eyes off me. Then, slowly, impossibly, he smiled. "You'll see me again." I made it out before the alarm stopped. Surface level. Tunnel exit. Out into the Montana dark, gasping like a man reborn. There was no trace of the prison behind me. No road. No name. No paperwork. Just a faint hum below the earth and an old scar I can't explain on the back of my neck. That was 8 months ago. Since then, I've changed everything. Name. Face. Country. But every time I hear static, every time a light flickers, every time a stranger stares too long, I wonder if it's him. If I really escaped. Or if I'm still inside, walking through the last layer of a cage built not from bars, but from my own choices. I got paid to break into a prison, but no one ever paid me to live with what I let out.